Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be another video going through some of my process making my Daredevil She-Hulk outfit. Today we're going to go through the helmet and his billy clubs just to show you the process of how I created them, and then at the end I'll show you a final look and some really fantastic photos that I got to take at a previous con where I finally debuted this outfit. First thing we'll start with, I'll pop over here. First thing we'll start with is the helmet. Now, I love the design of this helmet. As I've said before in my previous video, I love the gold of the She-Hulk costume. It's part of the reason I wanted to do it, because it's not actually a costume. You see that often. I know some people don't like it at all. I really liked it when I saw it on screen, and when that suit arrived in the mail, I liked it even more. But going on to the helmet. So to start off with, this file is by Vec 3D. I've bought a lot of files from him. He does fantastic work, fantastic communication, and updates to the files if he is making them more accurate. Basically, the She-Hulk Daredevil helmet is exactly the same as his Season 2 and his Defenders helmet. It's just got a different color scheme. So basically with this one, I did a test print without any horns, because Vec's file pack includes essentially a She-Hulk version, a Born Again version for the upcoming show, a Bullseye version which has no horns but a target on the head, and then just a completely smooth one similar to that Bullseye one. So I printed that first, got it sized perfectly. As you can see, I've got it displayed on my 3D modeled head here. If anyone wants a tutorial on how to do that, I can do it in another video, but regardless, it fit on here perfectly, fit my noggin. I'll just show you guys the products that I used to finish this helmet. I'll just put it here, maybe so you can still see it. There we go. Cool. So, the products that I used, start off with favorite of mine, XTC 3D. This stuff is really good for getting a nice start to your 3D prints. It really gives a nice smooth finish. Basically, it's 2:1 ratio. Mix it up, you get like a disposable brush, put it all over the 3D piece, like the helmet, making sure that it doesn't blob up or clog in any areas or anything like that. And then essentially, you let it dry, preferably in a higher temperature. I have started to use like a tent with a heater inside, just because it's really cold in Australia at the moment. Sometimes it cures a little weird if it is in colder temperatures, I've found. So otherwise, just like that. Once it's all done, give it a nice big sand. And that was a lot of the process, was sanding the model out, especially the temple. Hold it up so you can see it. Whoop. So a lot of it comes in sanding the temple here, because obviously you want a nice smooth finish for the dome, and then particularly the horns at the top here. And it's basically, it's not a waiting game, but it's a patience game. It was a lot of hours just sitting on my deck, just sanding back and forth. Normally, after the XTC, I went to about I think it was about 120 to 220 grit, got it right down. And then once I've hit it with the 220 grit is when I start using this. So this is Rust-Oleum 2-in-1 fillable sander. Now normally you cannot buy these at like auto repair shops or hardware shops here in Australia. They sell different products, and they've been steadily going not out of business, out of stock of these particular brands for quite some time now. But funnily enough, I found on Australian Amazon, because normally you can't, at least in Australia, these businesses can't ship spray cans. Amazon, no problem, basically. So bought a few of these. This has worked better than anything I have used in the past. It gives a really nice thick finish and great filling properties, and it sands absolutely great. So I definitely recommend this. I'll chuck the link in the bio. This is absolutely what I'd recommend if you are doing not just a helmet, but any 3D piece. If you need a fillable sander, I recommend this one. Not sponsored. So basically, filling and sanding, going over it with the particular lines here. So anywhere where it's a black line or anything like that, getting like a file I have a whole file set of, flat files, square, and just going in and just going back and forth gently so that I don't scratch into the model. But just going back and forth, making sure those areas aren't being clogged up or, I'm losing detail there. And then basically after that, it was time for painting. So with this one, I hit it with just a normal primer. Now, something that I've learned, people have explained this many times over the years, but I'm a very impatient person, so this is a struggle for me, is to let that primer set, let it cure. If the primer doesn't cure, every step beyond that will become screwed up, and then you've got a ruined product. So best thing to do is I put on the primer, 2 days, let it cure. Next, put on the gold, 2 days, let it cure. Once I'd done that, I hit it with a semi-gloss clear coat. The She-Hulk Daredevil helmet is not a tough one, but you see it only really in 2 different lights. You see it at broad daylight when he's talking to Jen in the finale, and then you see it in his episode, but it still has kind of that sheen and that shine to it. If any of you have seen the show as well, you might notice my version is maybe a little bit more gold. It shows up gold on the camera because I've got the lights on me. A little more gold than the show is, but to be honest with you, I really prefer it this way. It's a little bit more yellow in the show version, but I actually think the gold maybe matures it a little bit and makes it look a little more, I guess, like a superhero. I'd say. I think it gives, maybe a bit more grit to the thing. But yeah, I'm really happy with the paint job. It might not be for everyone, but for me, I was super happy with it. So once it was all painted, everything like that, I glued in the detail pieces here. Some of these were resin printed by a mate of mine, James, who goes by Feel Good Creations. The lenses were basically, I found a hobby shop which sells, I cannot remember what it's called. It's like plastic sheets. And essentially what I did, I tried to use my heat gun on them and then press them down on a buck, similar to what I've done or what you would do for Spider-Man lenses, but it just didn't really seem to work. The plastic shriveled up too quickly because it was too thin. Part of the reason I bought it, because I wanted it to be thin. So in the end, it's a very flexible plastic, so I ended up just, if you can see in there, hold it there, just hot gluing it into the helmet. When I first put them in, I only put the red. You could still see my eyes a little bit, only if I was standing in direct sunlight and you were looking at me, you could see my eyes. But just to remove that, I guess you could say flaw, I just got literally a green folder from Officeworks, thin green folder, put it in the back. Doesn't dull the vision. I can still see perfectly fine out of this. Enough annoying Deadpool cosplayers asking me that, don't worry. But I can still see perfectly fine out of this, and it gets that awesome red lens effect going there. Now the last step, which I've had a lot of people ask me about, is I guess you could say the damage or the weathering on this one. Basically, super easy. All I did was get a silver acrylic paint, just that you would buy from Spotlight. I basically had a reference image of the helmet in front of me, just on my TV, just sat in front of it and etched out the outline of each piece of weathering, and then essentially would go in with the paintbrush and fill it in, but then probably wait a minute or two and then come in and just tap it with a paper towel and sort of wipe it away. So when you do that, obviously some of it will remain, and then the rest of it will stick there, and you just build layers. Layers is my best advice. It's not a one and done. A lot of these were layers upon layers of, probably took me about an hour and a half to fully get it all done, of just layers of doing that. Ironically, you want to be precise in making it look like it's real weathering. And what I mean by that is I had to very specifically, I would choose to make jagged edges and stuff like that. I didn't let the paintbrush just do what it wanted. I had to make certain curves and certain edges and stuff with it so that it matched the screen used model. But in the end, came out super nice. And then once that was all done, it was just one final layer of clear coat just to make sure that the silver doesn't rub off. And since then, I have had barely any paint chipping, scratches and stuff like that. But the benefit of this one is even if it does scratch, if it chips, whatever, it only adds to the effect. That's what's so cool about it. So if I scratch it on the side or something like that, or the paint starts to come off, kind of like it is, if you guys can see it, like here, doesn't matter because it just looks like it's part of the effect. So yeah, awesome. So that is the helmet portion of this. That's the completed cowl. Fully, perfectly sized to my head. Vex files are the best for the Daredevil cowl. To me, I think his accuracy and just there's an art to making something actually feel comfortable in somebody's head, and I think he's nailed that really well. So props to him. Part 2, billy clubs. One of my favorite things about Daredevil, love the billy clubs. These ones, guys, super easy. These are another file by Vec 3D. These were actually printed, I'll try and show you close up. These were printed, hopefully you can see that, in only 0.2 millimeters. I didn't even print these in 0.1 millimeters on my 3D printer. That's how good the Neptune 3 Pro is. And it came out smooth as hell. The knurling on this looks fantastic. I literally did no finishing work to this print. This red right here is the original print. It shows up a lot more red on camera for some reason than it does in real life. I may need to dull it, but it is a much deeper red that matches the suit. But yeah, no finishing work on here. I didn't even put primer on here, like filler primer. I just went straight to my normal paint primer and then a lovely red that I found laying around from Super Cheap Auto. Just got the end caps on there. Now this does have a mechanism to have the thread inside. I'm somebody that it's cool for show, but it's never something I'm really going to take a photo with, so it's not something I super bothered putting into the design of it. But you can in Vex file have a like a metal thread connecting the two, so you can have the the wire in the center of it. The top bits as well, I was sort of running out of time near the end, so these ones I didn't get any finishing work on it, but it kind of gives them sort of like, again, I'm not sure if you can see in the camera, sort of like a brushed aluminium effect to those ones. Again, just silver paint with those, nothing too fancy. And then they do, if I can get it right, so they do interlock as one baton. I probably would like to in the future get these maybe molded so I can have a bit reinforcement or even have a flexible pair, maybe for some stunts or something like that. But otherwise, super easy for those ones. Even if you're not doing a Daredevil costume, still a great file by Vec, and then obviously you can see there it splits in the other direction. But yeah, that's bingo. That's the two parts there. And then last part is just the holster itself. Now this one, I'm gonna be real honest with you. I mucked this one up. I just ran out of time and my printer, it just wasn't doing what I needed it to do. It's serviceable. It's only on my hip. You can barely see it, but this was a real rough job, so I won't go too into detail with this. There's still a lot of things I need to change on this, get some more accurate loops, etc. But for the holsters, for the batons, it does the job. And that's pretty much it, guys. So now I'll just chuck up some photos just so you can see what the finished product looked like. I was really happy with how this costume all came together. Although the attendance at the con that day wasn't exactly a huge amount of people, I was really thankful to everyone that came up and complimented the costume and took outfits with me and stuff like that. I'm really grateful for everybody's support online and stuff as well. I can't wait to fix this suit up and bring it to New York Comic Con. This will sort of be my premiere costume there. Need to get some tailoring and stuff to it and put some time in at the gym between now and October, but I'm super excited to bring it there and match the New York setting of the character. But if you guys have any other questions or anything you may like me to go through with the suit, the batons, the helmet, anything like that, if you want a more in-depth look at how to finish the helmet, or even if you just want to grab maybe a commission or something of it, I'm more than happy to do that on my Instagram profile. That will be in the links below. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Bye bye.